You on the Wi-Fi?
I'm strong. Oh, well, it says I'm live, but I don't.
So are you on the Wi-Fi? Or you have your own Wi-Fi?
No, it was yes, please. It's the Wi-Fi of the location.
Hopefully not.
Cassandra Floyd. What are y'all trying to check? Oh, to see if yeah. Oh, my YouTube channel is at Daughter of the Fates. Daughter of the Fates, Fates. So I don't know why this is saying.
You're trying to go live on YouTube and like teach the class online
Yes,
as well?
yes. But maybe.
Oh, yeah, you're so oh, well, it's just no.
What in the world?
Can you record and post later?
No, it's not showing the screen. They can hear me on the live, but it's not showing.
It's showing that it's
but
locked.
I don't know. Maybe their Wi-Fi
Maybe their
is through.
Wi-Fi is locked.
Well, I'm locked. I'm connected to their Wi-Fi. I just don't know if their Wi-Fi is through somebody's phone. Maybe.
Did you get access to your camera?
Share screen. It says you can come on in. It says
One more.
It says to enjoy high resolution from your mobile phone during video calls, we need permission. I don't want to stream from my freaking my phone though. That's so weird.
Maybe it's confusing.
Wait. Because it may be. How you doing?
It doesn't seem like it has permission to use your camera.
The camera's not locked.
Yeah. Or maybe off.
Maybe it's a sign.
So weird. Maybe it's a sign. Okay. I think it's working. Yes.
Just going through these are some reports that she passed around first year.
Oh, Eureka. Yes.
Oh,
Good. Yes. Great. It's still weird, but it will do. I see. That's so crazy. I think it's just because I'm tapped into their Wi-Fi. Like the only way it can work is through my phone. Anyway. Okay, so we're gonna get started.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So my name is Cassandra Faye Floyd, and I've got all kinds of little stuff around here. This is a lengthy topic, and initially I was supposed to have 2 hours, but the schedule changed a lot. So I prepared for a 2-hour conversation. Okay, so we're going to try to mush 2 hours into an hour. Mm-hmm. So the reason for this discussion, the name of this workshop is entitled Embracing the Path of the Left. It is a topic that I've been wanting to teach for a very long time. So you guys are my guinea pigs, and then the people who follow my channel are my guinea pigs for this workshop. This is the 5th workshop that I've taught here at the soiree, so I've been here since the beginning. And typically I teach very basic Chinese medicine theory and how you can apply it to your life without having to go to medical school. You understand? So I teach yin-yang, I teach the 5 elements, and this is a workshop that I've taught here called The Mysteries and Secrets of the Lower Palace. So this is about women's health. You know, the bimao or the lower palace is the uterus. So what does this mean esoterically? What does it mean spiritually? What does it mean for your daily health and so on and so forth? The reason I have these hanging up is because embracing the path of the left is one of those taboo topics that people like kind of whisper about. How many people have heard of the left-hand path? Let me ask that first.
Never.
Wow. Nobody?
I thought you were talking political, honestly.
Somebody else said that. It didn't even occur to me, but I was like, yes, that's an honest, yeah. Okay, well, it's a part of it, honestly. Mm-hmm. The whole idea of the left and the right, the red and the blue, has its origin in what I'm going to be talking about today. I'm not going to get that deep with y'all, but I have gotten that deep. As a matter of fact, on my YouTube channel, I did a workshop entitled The Hidden History of the Conflict Between Red and Blue. And it's about 6,000 years old, this conflict.
Wow.
So, yeah, it's not just American politics. Okay, so what we're going to do is I'm first going to talk to you about why this is an important subject, especially given the environment that we live in today. So it's good that you mentioned politically, because politically, we're in an environment where people, regardless of where they stand politically or ideologically, are feeling the collective stress of the whole, whether that comes out as anger or frustration or rage or fear. Everybody is feeling and sensing everybody else's particular or peculiar response to what they're seeing on TikTok or on social media or on the news every day. This collective uncertainty about what next and what's coming. And I felt like this, going back to the basics, was a way to empower people. So that's always what I am attempting to do. I am attempting to change people's perspective in a way that not only empowers them, but emboldens them. You understand? Okay. So the concept of the left-hand path is actually very old. Its origins is in Hinduism and pre-patriarchal practice of Hinduism. Okay. So short version. Throughout the world, for the greater period of the human story or the human epoch on Earth, right? We lived in communal, matriarchal, matrilineal societies where the grandmother held the most sway in the community, right? There's evidence of this all over the world. Every single continent, there are some variances of matrilineal societies that lasted for a very, very long time. And one aspect of the benefit of living in matrilineal societies was that there was not war, there was not competition for resources because everyone was cared for. So these are some of the things that we look to. But almost collectively, and this is when you get into astrology, when you look at history, all over the world, seemingly at the same time, there was this very, very slow transition and shift to the rise of patriarchal, patrifocal societies, where now the collective power that was embodied by elder women in these communities is slowly shifting to males in general and fathers in particular. As this shift is occurring, it is changing the cultural philosophies, it's changing the spiritual beliefs very, very slowly. It's happening everywhere. It's happening in South America, North America, all over the globe at the same time. This is where the witchiness of understanding astrology and astrological ages and how information is transferred. Let me get you to hold your questions to the end if you can remember them, please. And how information is transferred across, invisible boundaries and borders to become ideas and show social changes, collective social changes. So as patriarchy is making its way into the forefront of human society, and it's having this impact on political life and economic life and spiritual religious life, this is where you begin to see a distinction between what is called the two paths of enlightenment, the left-hand path and the right-hand path. Now, whether you're familiar with the language or not, we all are familiar with what the right-hand path looks like. The right-hand path, when thinking about Hinduism, what do you think about? You think about yogis meditating for hours on end or chanting Om for yogis are not like regular people. They do these extreme acts of devotion. This is what elevates them to guru status, right? So they'll go fast for 40 days in a cave by themselves, or they'll stand over a waterfall for 3 days. These extreme displays. You've seen sometimes in movies, they'll walk on beds of nails, or they'll walk on hot coals, or those kinds of things. With Buddhist monks, it's the same thing. These long periods of what we call asceticism, these extreme acts of devotion, right? Whether it's in Catholicism, vows of celibacy or vows of poverty or whatever. These are ascetic acts. And asceticism means extreme displays of devotion to a person or to a deity. That's what it means. So anything that you would think is kind of, quote, extreme as a normal person, as a display of loyalty, is probably ascetic. This is considered the right-hand path. Okay? But the problem is as patriarchy is having this impact, it is very slow, like a few thousand years. But as patriarchy is slowly having this impact on spiritual ideas, it is also defining itself in opposition to, as opposed to in unity with, the matrilineal societies. So as it is changing the philosophy and the religion, it's also staging a political contest to against the previous age to basically create first hierarchies, right? The reason that this is important is because in early Hinduism, the path of the right hand and the path of the left hand were seen as equal paths to enlightenment, where we know and have seen in some way or another the right hand path. Ever since I was a kid, I grew up in the South. Both of my parents were from New Orleans. They were hardcore Christians. So we always heard about the left hand path is like the boogeyman. You feel me? The left hand path is all that hoodoo, voodoo, boogeyman stuff, and you don't even entertain it. You don't even think about it. Just put it out of your mind, right? And so that was what it was. I was never even curious about it, right? But then getting involved in this research, the left-hand path in its earliest stages was an equal path to enlightenment. And if asceticism, acts of deprivation, acts of devotion that equate to deprivation or self-harm, like you'll see old movies where Catholic priests used to like beat themselves or cut themselves as acts of penance. This too is considered asceticism. So those are extreme displays, but they were still a thing. So if the right-hand path is about needing to separate from the flesh, needing to separate as much as you can from the desires of, quote, the material world or the flesh to, quote, become enlightened or to be one with God, then what do you think the left hand means? If it was in its earliest, phase, an equal path of enlightenment. If asceticism is the right hand, what would you naturally think the left hand would be?
The same. They're mirror.
Close. What do you think?
It would be the exact opposite.
Yes. What would that be?
Debauchery.
Well,
In a sense.
I mean, we still have now. No, I get why you say that. Because some people, when talking about the left hand, they do talk about the left hand path as, quote, hedonism. These are very recent concepts in human history. Like they go back to the Greeks. So that's still very, very young in the grand scheme of like human development. And so because it's still debauchery or hedonism is still a very left, patriarchal, male-dominated understanding, it still doesn't quite meet what the display of the left-hand path was. The left-hand path was considered radical indulgence in the desires of the flesh. Radical indulgence. The reason that I make that distinction is if you're living in a world where the matriarchy is still recognized, the left-hand path is still recognized as an equal, because everybody is not the same. What you need to reach enlightenment is not what I'm going to need to reach enlightenment. There was an acknowledgement of the duality that exists within each human being, and everything can't be for everybody. So the left-hand path, it slides. They should put like a arrow thing because nobody knows how to get into that room. You can take a seat up here. So the reason I make that distinction is, it's good to see you, is because if you're living in a matriarchal society, right, where there's historically no war, there's no starvation, there are no jails, nobody's like put outside the group, right? There's no competition, right? Then radical indulgence in the desires of the flesh means something inherently different than in a society that is male dominated, that is all about competition, that is about the establishment of hierarchies, that is about the demotion of one to feel your sense of selfness, that you can only feel your sense of selfness at somebody else's expense, right? Then the left-hand path from that perspective means something different, right? That's the reason to make the distinction. So when you talk about, I'm so glad you raised that actually, because when you talk about debauchery or hedonism, we, right now today, especially living in LA, like this is Babylon where most people are concerned. I'm from, the Bible Belt South. Hollywood is, the center of all things evil. Evil, if you have anybody in the old church, tell the story. And the reason why is because what is being presented as the left-hand path through the perspective of people who are in positions of power, people who, hold a hegemony over the images that are put out in the world, then the left-hand path is something that looks scary and devilish and all the bad things because it's still coming through the lens of a very parasitic society and worldview. That's the reason to make the distinction. So, for example, why is the left so important? Has anybody ever heard the word sinister?
Yeah.
Right? What do you think sinister means? What does it sound like? Bad, terrible, evil. Yeah. Oh, you know what? Let me write these down. So I've got to teach a workshop up in here. You feel me? Let me write this down.
What was the Roman Empire then?
We'll get to that. We'll get to that because it did play a very vital role in the switch. So I said sinister. What's up, boo?
I'm just taking footage.
Okay, cool.
You. Okay.
Okay. I didn't know if you.
Anyone else is not comfortable being in front of the camera?
Okay, so somebody said sin. What did somebody else say? Evil, dark. Oh, these are good. Come on, keep them coming. Somebody said something else that stood out. What did you say?
I didn't say.
Nefarious.
Okay, nefarious. Sin's on here. Okay, these are good. These are good. All right. Sinister, which is probably one of my favorite words. And I will tell you why. Ooh. It's because it's one of the most misunderstood words. So right now, I've done it, but right now I want somebody to take their phone and Google search the etymology of the word sinister. The etymology of the word sinister. Yes. And you have to type it just like that. The etymology of the word sinister.
What is etymology?
The origin of the word. So it's not its current definition. The difference is if you look up the current definition, it'll say what you said. But if you look up the origin of the word,
Sinestra.
say that again.
Sinestra.
Sinestra. Yes. What does that mean? Keep going back.
Yeah, but it comes from Latin.
It comes from Latin, and there's a French origin too. Tell me what it is.
Let's see, it comes from the Latin, which means the left side.
Yes. Yes.
Anglo-French word sinistre, which means on the left.
Yes. There you go.
Oh.
There you go. There you go. There you go.
I see where this class is going.
Did you hear it? Both origin etymologically, Latin and French, means on the left side or of the left.
Wow.
Okay? Yeah, everybody's like, wow, it gets deeper. All right? Yes, it really, really is. There's actually, I got into this habit of like finding the etymology for everything, and it was based on this word and the word compassion. I was running this campaign for this woman. It was an electoral campaign, and on her website, she had the word compassion. She was talking about, what the city needs is compassionate leadership and compassion. She said it like 100 times on her website. I was like, what? Why do you have compassion on your website so much? She was like, why would you ask that question? I was like, can I be honest? I said, I hate that word. She was like, who hates compassion? I was like, I do. I don't know why, but it just irks me. Can you find another word? Right? And so I was like, okay, maybe I am a weirdo. So the first word I ever went home to search the etymology of, because I'm like, why am I so frustrated by this word that everybody's like, compassion is about like caring for your fellow human and stuff. No, it's not. No, it's not. And trust me, I was like, why is this word such an annoyance to me? The etymology of the word, not only compassion, but passion. Now, I'm not trying to offend anybody. I'm just telling you what it is, okay? The etymology of the word compassion and passion has its origin at the supposed death of Christ. That passion does, yes, the passion of Christ, but passion means to suffer. Passion means to suffer. Passion means to suffer. So compassion means to suffer with, to take up one's suffering as your own. To not to empathize with, not to feel sympathy for, to take up one's suffering as your own, not to raise them up out of suffering, right? Not to change the conditions that cause their suffering. It is to take up one's suffering as your own. So this woman is talking politically all over her website about how we need compassionate leadership. No, we don't need y'all to suffer, quote, with us. We need you to change the conditions that create suffering in this city. That way nobody suffers, right? But I knew there was a reason that I hated the word. Then the next word I looked up was sinister. I don't remember where I heard it or whatever. But when it came up as on the left, that sent me on a whole other wormhole, because the word left, just left, occurs in the Bible 466 times. Yeah, 466 times. And so I'm going to show you a few things, okay? So one, the yin and yang, all right? Most people that I talk to when I teach this as a workshop, and I ask the whole room, I'll just ask you guys, we're here, what does this symbol mean to you?
Sorry, which word?
This symbol.
The symbol?
What does this mean to you?
Equal sides, yin and yang.
That's what it is, yin and yang. What does it mean to you?
What does it mean?
What does it represent to you?
To me personally,
There's no wrong answer, just say what it is.
just equal,
Okay, what about you?
balance,
Okay, what about you?
Two sides to everything, right?
Okay, what about you?
The balance between dark and light.
Okay, what about you? What about you?
The two sides.
What about you?
Duality.
What about you? Okay, all of those things are right, and all of those things are wrong. Okay, so this symbol, we only ever see it in this format, in two-dimensional format. You see it like this. But this symbol, if you are able to conceptualize it, not only is it spherical, this symbol is five-dimensional. It represents past, present, future, happening simultaneously. It represents every dimensional potentiality, right? So it represents all dimensions, those that we're aware of and those that we are not aware of. And it represents the harmonious union between what appears to be opposing forces. That nothing that is could exist without anything else that exists. So we talk about, I think it was you that said duality. We talk about duality a lot when we talk about the yin and yang, because again, we've only been taught that this means harmony or balance. And so we always see harmony and balance within this kind of, even in our mind, this two-dimensional black and white, up and down, night and day kind of thing. Those things, again, are all true, but they are a horrible oversimplification of what this symbol represents. This symbol not only is, quote, the yin and yang, this symbol is an Asian representation of a symbol that exists in every culture. In Mayan culture, they call it what is it called? The katakal. It just looks like the yin and yang, but it looks like kind of squares stacked up on each other with the tips coming out in the four directions, right? The medicine wheel that is pretty prominent through most native or North American indigenous tribes. That is a version of this same symbol, okay? It exists everywhere, but guess what else it is? This is what we call the cosmic egg. Has anybody ever heard of the cosmic egg?
no.
Raise your hand if you have not heard of the cosmic egg. Okay, short version. This is just this is like a philosophical, spiritual explanation of what we call the Big Bang Theory, the origin of all that is, okay? So the metaphysical story or the spiritual mythology is that the great black primordial abyss that is space, right? That no matter how many trillions and trillions of stars there is, there's still so much more black unknown space, right? That this great black primordial abyss was a giant serpent. And this giant serpent produced an egg. And in this egg was all the possibilities of what creation could be. And when the cosmic egg cracked, out spilled the universe. Out spilled everything that we know that exists. Okay, that's the story. Okay, so this is the cosmic egg. Again, it's 5-dimensional. It represents all the possibilities, past, present, and future, and multidimensional. Okay, this also is something else. What does this look like? Taking away the yin and yang.
Earth.
Okay, yes, it represents Earth, but I'll just tell you.
Fish.
Yes! What fish?
Koi fish.
Keep coming. It's not koi. Keep coming.
Goldfish.
Yes!
Which one?
Pisces, the opposing fish of the astrological symbol, the Pisces, right? Yes. So you have, this is another version of the Pisces fish, right? Which again represents, when you know the depth of the Pisces sign, it represents the upper firmament and the lower firmament of the ocean. The upper fish, which is lighter, represents that portion of the ocean where the light of the sun still penetrates.
Mm-hmm.
At the moment that the ocean becomes dark and you can no longer detect the sun, this is what's called the lower firmament, or the secrets of the lower fish, right? Still represents. Why? Because water is a matrix, just like the universe, right? The water is plasma, just like, quote, dark matter that permeates the entire universe. This represents the secrets that lay below the surface, okay? This still, the Pisces fish, is still a representation of the totality of the entire universe and all of its possibilities. The reason this is important is because in Chinese medicine, so this is also a diagnostic tool in Chinese medicine. I use this and this to diagnose patients. And the reason why is because this thing is always in a flux. It's always in an ebb and flow, even though they are one. Right? They are what we call mutually opposing. Yes, they represent the opposing forces, light and dark, hot and cold, whatever, but they still exist within a one. Within this is two sides to this universal nature, right? Not two things at odds with each other, antagonistically opposed. They are mutually, harmoniously opposed, okay?
Which means they are both necessary.
Absolutely. Everything that exists is necessary, even if we don't understand the reason for its existence. Everything in the universe is necessary, right? Now, in Chinese theory, what is said about the relationship of yin and yang, and then I'll move on, but it's important. What is said about the relationship of the yin and yang is that the yin, representing the universe, is the mother, okay? I wrote it here, mother, sun. The yang is the sun. So in the theory, it says that yin generates or gives birth to yang, and in return, yang stimulates and invigorates yin. That if the heat, right, if the sun, if the heat, if the testosterone, if the warmth, right, if the fire, if the independent nature of the sun did not exist, then yin would cease to exist. Think about your blood. We say it's just the heart that pumps the blood through the veins, but it's much more dynamic than that. Now we know that qi is a real force, undetectable but still real, right? And that qi, being yang, moves the blood. The heart pumps, but it is the qi that moves the blood through the vessels, right? It is the qi that moves energy through the meridians, right? It is source qi that we get from our parents that can fortify us if we are weak, that we can tap into through the belly button, our primordial qi, that qi that existed in our parents before we were born. If you want to be Western medicine about it, change brains. You get 23 chromosomes from your mom, 23 chromosomes from your dad. This makes you who you are. In Chinese medicine, we call that your genetic inheritance. Well, your genetic inheritance is your lot in life. And just like an inheritance, you can pull from it. You can make withdrawals from it. You see, but we're not taught that. We're not taught how to, if we are weak or if we are sick, how do we tap into our primordial qi, that qi in our bloodline that existed before we did. There are treatments for that, right? And so the mother gives birth to the son, but the son is still a part of the mother's body. He's not apart from her, okay? In this theory, the dark, so transferred, so this is about 5,000 years old. Lao Tzu, okay? The Tao Te Ching, Lao Tzu, the whole thing, right? This is his thing. This is bad. Now, one statement that I love by Lao Tzu is he said, "In all things, embrace the yin." It was an acknowledgement that because the yang is so, quote, abundant or exuberant, right? That the yang, it's rare for the yang to be deficient, right? It's just, think about fire, right? It's like destructive. He said that yang energy is destructive in nature. That the only thing that changes its destructive nature to a beneficial nature. Think about our sun. Yeah, the sun helps plants grow and gives us nice little skin tone, and gives us vitamin D, right? But what is it that allows the sun to be nourishing and beneficial? It is the atmosphere, which is water. The atmosphere, which is water. It's yin, okay? So without that atmosphere, our earth would be barren and trees would not be able to grow. Everything on the planet would look like the desert because the sun's nature is exuberant. And the only thing that transforms it from destructive to beneficial is what we call being anchored by the mother, anchored by the yin, having a harmonious relationship with yin, right? Now, the reason this is important is because I was telling you earlier, as all of these beautiful philosophies were like existing around the world, there was also something happening that had its origin in the development of human society and the industrialization of, cropping and learning how to domesticate animals. This is causing social changes among human beings. Now we can store food where we don't have to be hunters and gatherers anymore. It changes all levels of social dynamics, politically and otherwise. As this is happening, this is being transferred as people are getting to go to other places and meet other kinds of people with other philosophies. Now people are exploring the world and stuff. Europeans go to Asia and they learn from these great philosophers or whatever. But in Europe at the time, Rome, pagan Rome, so slowly transitioning from pagan Rome to papal Rome, right? The origins of the Roman Catholic Church. You mentioned that earlier. You did. Yeah. The Roman Catholic Church. The church's power, even as it was in its infancy, was to exploit mystery, because there was a general ignorance an imposed ignorance among European societies. These were like tribes. It was still tribes that were being like imperially conquered by Rome at the time. And as these tribes were being conquered, some of their beliefs were being absorbed into the empire, and then some of them were being squashed out. Those that represented a contest to imperial power were eradicated, erased. So there was this imposition of collective ignorance in Europe. And as that was happening and unfolding, this philosophy, which is a holistic philosophy about how everybody on earth can, based on the philosophy alone, just like your inner body, always be kind of ebbing and flowing to find out a steady kind of balance and harmony between societies and environmental conditions and all of these things. That was slowly being eradicated. So as these Europeans are coming back to a newly papal Rome that relied on, quote, keeping secrets or the establishment of mysteries to keep power over those who they had recently made, ignorant, banned reading, right? All of these things. This goes from this and this at the same time, goes from a representation of the universe and the harmony within the self as a representation of the harmony in the environment, goes from this means evil, this means good, this means bad, this means good, this means negative, this means positive, this means mother, this means son. Son is obviously on the top, so it obviously means that son is supreme over the mother, right? All of the philosophies become flipped upside down, right? And then this becomes the pentagram, which is a symbol of the devil. Like I used to teach this in high school, and the first time I drew this on the board, now of course I'm teaching at a Christian school, but I'm teaching Chinese medicine, and they're like, "Oh, Dr. Moyende, that's the devil side. That's the devil side." It's that deep. It's funny, but having to talk them down, that they did not even want to look at it because it represented something that was dangerous to their soul. This is what they've been taught, even as little kids. So all of these things represent the yin. Moon, earth, mother, water, passive, nurturing, trees, blood, flesh, feminine, all those things. Everything that represents yang is like exuberant and necessary, but intangible. You can see fire, but you can't touch it. You can't taste it. You can't smell it. You can smell the evidence of it, but you can't smell it, right? You can't grab it, right? Oxygen. We know that we can't live more than maybe 2 minutes, 3 minutes at best without it. But as soon as we start gasping for air, we're like, whoo, I can't see it, but I'm so glad oxygen is real, right? So the sun, the sun looks like a solid object in the sky, but the sun is a giant ball of gas, intangible, and up on it, even undefinable, right? This is important because this becomes the establishment, the concretization of these opposing forces as opposed to a collective one, right? This is the origin of it, this transition from this being a representative. Yes.
Transform it from being a synergistic entity to an opposing entity, which
that is constantly warring against itself. Did anybody see the Black Panther movie?
Yes.
There's a scene where Killmonger says, it's such a good quote. It's so relevant. He says, the child abandoned by his village will burn it to the ground to feel its warmth. Right? The child abandoned by his village will burn it to the ground to feel its warmth. This is a statement about the son, the S-O-N, gone rogue, split apart from the mother. That yang is always destructive. What is the evidence? When yang is destructive, it seeks only to destroy that which is tangible, that which is yin. So the hole in the ozone layer, this is the evidence of the sun gone rogue. Oil spills in the oceans, this is the evidence of the sun gone rogue. Burning down of like rainforest or cutting down a rain, this is the actual real world evidence of the sun gone rogue, unanchored by the love of its mother.
Is that patriarchy going
That's everything.
wrong?
That's everything. I call this, so like when I use this to explain politically where we are in the world, I call the period that we live in the age of the desert. So in Chinese medicine, you have, this represents harmony. Everybody happy, everybody working together. The son is invigorating the mother. Anybody in here got kids? Okay, so you're a father, but still think about your relationship with your mother. When you were little, like, 0 to 7, okay? Even if you was misbehaving, even if you was like doing what little boys do, just up to mischief, right? As soon as you did something cute, even if your mother was annoyed, her whole disposition was you. He bad, but that's my baby. He's so cute. I just love my baby. Her whole vibe is changed from the happiness. She is fed from the happiness of her child. Even if she even had a hard day, she's generally, all she's looking to do, especially when the child is an infant, all she's looking to do is to keep that child happy. Baby starts crying, mama jumps. What's wrong with the baby? Do we need to change? Do we need some food? Do we need to be played with? Whatever. That's all our first experience is, up until about 2 years old when we start getting told no all the time. But that first 2 years in particular, I feel like it's this longing that we all have, this memory of this short little period in our life where we didn't have to work for love, we didn't have to deserve love, we didn't have to put on displays to show that we're worthy of love, like out, not just from our parents. We would be in our little stroller, perfect strangers, be like, oh my God, your baby's so cute, oh my goodness, girl, you did good, right? Just getting love, just for existing.
Wow.
And I feel, having been practicing medicine now for 11 years, I am convinced that it is the source of everything that we call a disease. That this conflict imposed on us through philosophy, through imposed narratives that are still about hierarchies and keeping a hold of power, separate us from our mothers. I think it expresses itself more detrimentally in males. To be born a male and still have this experience that the most important person in the universe, you can't articulate that when you're an infant, but as soon as mama leaves the room, like, where my mama at? That's what you say. Where my mama at? This is what my life depends on right here. Yes, I have a daddy. I like him. He cool. But where is my mom? Especially if you're breastfeeding. Oh, Don't let mama walk out the room, right? Our understanding, because we are completely, now the Hindus believe, which I love, that the entire time that you're in utero, that you are still omnipotent. You are still like God, that you still have because time doesn't exist in utero, right? Time doesn't exist anywhere the way we understand it, but here, right? So you still have a full awareness of all your past lives, that you are an old ancient being when you are in your mother's womb. And it is only when you go through the path of unknowing. They call the birth canal the path of unknowing, because they say that you choose your life, you choose your destiny. The Indians say you choose your karma, you choose your life, right? Because you are omnipotent. You can see the past, the present, the future, and all the possibilities. And so you look and you say, okay, that's who I want to be my parents. You feel me? They're about to get together, so I'm going to position myself to petition my mother to live so I can have this particular life that I see is going to be something beneficial and something that's going to allow me to go to the next stage of enlightenment, right? And once you go through the path of unknowing, right, the birth canal, they say that it is the pain of childbirth on the skull of the baby that takes our conscious, omnipotent memories of all of our past lives and disengages the conscious mind and forces all of those memories into the subconscious mind at the moment that the baby crowns. So at the moment that the baby's head, his crown chakra, meets light for the first time, is when those conscious memories are then pushed into the subconscious memory. This is where your dreams come from. This is where deja vu comes from. This weird feeling that this is so familiar, but I know this has never happened. It is because you saw it happen before you got here. But can you learn the lesson if you already know the lesson? This is the reason that path of unknowing was so important. It's also what the Hindus believe is or Indian people in general, even medical Indian people, believe is the reason for what we are identifying over the last 50 years as behavioral disorders, is that 1/3 since the 90s, 1/3 of babies born in the United States are taken via cesarean. 1/3.
Isn't that larger?
No, it's still around a third, and it's still, and of all 52 developed countries, it's the worst.
What is
Yeah.
cesarean?
C-section,
Oh,
when the baby has to be cut out as opposed to go through the birth canal. To give you an idea of what a negative impact cesareans have, long-term impacts on the health of the mother. They don't even research the long-term impacts of cesareans on babies, but on the mother is pretty radical. So much so the World Health Organization declared that any country that has a cesarean rate of more than 11% should declare a state of emergency. And ours is a third. So 33%.
That's all money based.
Absolutely. But the Hindus, the Indians believe that it is the basis behind when we are pathologizing as specifically behavioral disorders. Think about it. You're old, you're ancient, you've lived many lives, and you are imprisoned in the body of a human that is completely dependent and cannot articulate what you are experiencing, but you're still fully aware because you haven't gone through the path of unknowing, right? Seeing everybody around you dumber than you are because you've lived so long, and not being able to cuss somebody out or smack them in the face and say, "What the heck are you doing?" or whatever, right? And what is coming out as an inability to control your child, or to soothe your child or console your child, gets labeled as a pathology. Now, I have a personal position that it is also contributing to the next stage of human evolution. These many, many babies that are being taken prematurely. I think that if we can nurture what we have pathologized as opposed to, medicate, but actually allow children to lead into those things that may be socially uncomfortable for us, that they represent the next stage of human evolution. That's what I believe. I believe the pathologizing of human beings, the pathologizing of humans, especially mentally, what we call mentally, I think it's deliberate. I don't think it's accidental. I think it is a deliberate attempt by people in power to use the pathologizing of rebellion, to pathologize rebellion. Because for a world gone to shit, the only natural response would be rebellion, would be to buck against, would be to challenge. And what happens is we are told what the standard of normal is. And if you don't meet that standard of normal, then you are naturally abnormal. Thus, there must be a medication for you. This medication dullifies, pacifies, empathizes, any other word you want to use. I am always talking about the hidden giant in every human being that is held in a prison called their heart, right? And that, so y'all call it shadow work, right? Oh my God, you gotta do your shadow work, you gotta resolve your trauma. Now I get it, there's a lane for that. But everything is not about trauma. That if we accept that mommy and I are one, that I am not apart from my mother, right? That human beings represent the totality of a singular. We're not on Earth, we are Earth. We're not on Earth. We don't just, inhabit the space. That the Earth is a living, breathing, sentient organism, just like we are, just like the several trillion, individual cells in our body know exactly their role, what to do, and how to contribute to this whole that is me standing here. We are that to Earth, right? And because this philosophy flipped upside down has dissected everything about existence, right? You can't go to a doctor if you have something wrong with your eyes. You can't go to just a regular doctor and say something wrong with my eyes. What's he gonna do? He's gonna say you need to go and see an ear, nose, and throat, or eye, ear, nose, and throat specialist, or what is it?
Optometrist.
Optometrist. If you stump your toe and you think it's broken, you can't just go to a regular doctor and say, I need a splint or something on my toe. Can you fix it? No, I need you to go to a podiatrist. So the actual methodical dissecting of every aspect of the human being. Why? Because that is necessary in a society that capitalizes on these separations. As much as you can dissect some shit down, that's more money you can make from it. That's more wealth you can extract from it. And I'm telling you, once you see that, I saw it going to medical school, right? I got it, being, a quote, socialist for a long time, an atheist for a long time, transferred to a priest of a goddess worshiping temple. You feel me? To see how mysteries are created to maintain a split between human beings. Yes, that's the way that it's used. That's the way. So what we call mystery, he said to maintain ignorance. So everything that we get into, like, what do you call it? Like conspiracy theories about, ooh, the Illuminati, ooh, the Freemasons. They rule everything. They run everything. What does that do? It disempowers you. It makes you feel that there is no recourse that you have. This is what mysteries are created to do in the patriarchal age, is to disempower beings existing on a planet that come here, that incarnate here with all of the potential power of the entire universe, because mommy and I are one. That doesn't just mean the woman that took up the mission to give birth to you. That means that mommy, the concept of mommy, right, is this great black giant primordial dark matter, what do they call it, universal plasmatic energy that we still don't have the ability to conceptualize, but that we know gave rise to everything that exists in the universe. Like that we know scientifically. You don't have to be an esotericist or a philosopher, or a spiritual person to accept that. That it is this unexplainable black everything through which all of these forces are born and disintegrate, and it's an endless process. We get taught, so y'all use some great words. All of these words have been used historically to describe the yin. All of these things. Sin. Do you know what the etymology of the word sin is? There's several. In Hebrew, the etymology of the word sin is the moon, or mother moon. In Latin, it means to be, S-I-N, to be. In Greek, it means she is. In Latin, it is to be. In Greek, it is she is. In Hebrew, it is moon or mother moon. So I was reading this woman. She wrote this book. Her name is Mary Daly. She wrote a book called Pure Lust. I'm thinking this is gonna be some kind of like romance novel. I'm like, let's go. You feel me? I'm with it. And no, it was not even remotely close to that. She was talking about a lust for life, a lust for living that human beings have been denied access to.
Yeah.
Hence why the left is so important, because those things that would provide us ecstasy, right? And when I mean ecstasy, I don't just mean sex. The ecstasy that you see when a 2-year-old child puts his hand in mud and rubs the mud on his face. He's like, oh my God, mud is so awesome. Babies just love mud. Well, scientifically, we know now that there are chemicals, there are naturally occurring chemicals in the mud that cause, when the largest pores in your body are in the soles of your feet and the palms of your hands, that when you put your hands in mud in particular, those chemicals cause a sharp spike in your dopamine. Mm-hmm. That's why I dance between left, but Western medicine and Eastern medicine, because I can say, the ecstatic response of a child playing in the mud is like, stars in the sky or some bullshit, because Chinese medicine is very beautifully poetic and all that stuff. And I had a hard time the first year of med school because all of my previous sciences were Western sciences, botany and biochem and chemistry and all that left brain shit that avert the lungs. And so I go to Chinese med school and they're talking about, yin rising to anchor the sun. I was like, I'm not going to make it. I'm not going to make it. This is like a poetry class. I don't know what they're talking about. But once you understand that there are multiple ways to communicate the same idea, what the European world did was to, again, take and demote the significance of other people's sciences to prop their understanding of the scientific world above all others. So even now, if it doesn't have a peer review article attached to it, then it's not scientifically valid because it did not go through the scientific method. You feel what I'm saying? Meanwhile, all of those things that were accepted facts for thousands of years, lo and behold, a few thousand years later, white guys in white coats with a white microscope and a white lab say, oh my God, look, here are two little strands together and we're going to call this DNA. But the Egyptians understood the role of DNA 3,000 years ago, right? Or the two guys, I forget their names, who discovered. No, I was going to say, but thank you. You're talking about the DNA? I was going to say the discovery of penicillin.
I'm speaking of the two guys that did the vaccine stuff.
Oh yeah, that was Southern African and Eastern African. No, it was two white guys. It was
two white guys. Some can say that they're the guys who brought the vaccines to a level of.
But even those two guys, where they came up with the idea was watching an old practice of African people taking little grains of straw and putting it in the pustules of cowpox, of cows that had cowpox, and then putting it in Africans, very minuscule amounts, to build up an immunity to pox, which was a long practice. So you can go on and on and on. I went through all of these, these courses that helped me bridge the gap that was forcefully created, helped me bridge the gap between the, so-called, what we call alternative medicine. It's old ass medicine, but it's alternative, you feel me? And Western medicine. So I have 4 degrees, and one of my degrees is in Western professional health sciences. And so that bridging of the gap, that gap exists everywhere. There's so much more I wanted to talk about, but all of this shit is important. But like even this dichotomy between our left brain and right brain, we totally internalize that shit. Oh, I'm left brain dominant. Oh, I'm right brain dominant. And then we just yield to that shit instead of attempting to become a unified, completely dynamic whole thinker that allows you to that allows you to use the optimal spaces of your brain whenever the circumstance calls for one thing or another. Do you need to be more, more esoteric? Do you need to be more right-brained, which is what makes you left-handed, right? Left-handed. And And so I will say one more thing about sinister, because all of these are good. I'm telling you, I have to figure out how to do this workshop in like 3 sections or something. But the word sinister was also used during the witch trials to describe people who were left-handed. And so during the witch trials, it was one of the things that could be used against you to try you as a witch, to say that this was evidence that you were, in league with the devil. Somebody, do me a favor, and then we're going to end here. You know your way around the good book? Look up Matthew. Where did I write it?
25:30.
Yes, thank you. Matthew 25:30. I have a whole bunch of scriptures, but this one I thought was interesting because the left hand in the Bible. Go ahead, read it.
25.
Yeah, no, this is Matthew. It's all the way in the New Testament. Go ahead.
It's a little small for me. And sorry, can you read this? At 30.
May need the light from your phone.
Yeah.
And cast the worthless servant into outer darkness. In that place there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth.
Yes. And cast ye the unprofitable servant. Yeah, what he said.
Okay, keep going. There should
My
be.
eyes are so
Keep going.
When the Son of the Man shall come in his glory, and all the holy angels with him, then shall be sit upon the throne of his glory.
Okay.
And before him shall be gathered all nations,
Yes, keep going.
and he shall separate them
Come on.
one from another, as a shepherd divided his sheep from his goats.
Come on. Where are they?
And he shall set the sheep on his right
Come
hand,
on.
but the goats on the left.
Now, this is word. I love the fact that you put on your preacher voice. I dig that. Listen, the left hand is always female. It's always, even in the Bible, the 466 times that it's mentioned in the Bible, it talks about the left hand of God is his feminine side. It says, not only is it his feminine side, but that it is his hand of judgment, the left side. So it becomes dark. It becomes evil. It becomes that which you do not want to engage, even with God. And that everything that is good and glorious sits where? On the right hand, at the right hand of the Father, right? They're like, wait, so let me go, because I don't want to take up too much of her time. But let me just say something. Well, we started a little late. So let's just take 3 minutes to wrap up. These books, if you didn't take pictures of them, I would really encourage you to at least check them out, especially these two. The Women's Encyclopedia of Myths and Secrets, everyone should have it. Male, female, and all the genders in between. Thank you so much. And then also, you can make a donation that way too if you would like. So this one is really great. I'm trying to meet this woman this year. She's like 82. She lives here in California. And then she wrote that one too, the Women's Dictionary of Symbols and Sacred Objects. When I'm telling you to have your mind blown, to literally throw into the abyss every idea that you have held dear and to instantly see how those ideas have been used against you, it is so boring. It's shocking. And nothing is sacred. Nothing is sacred. So the left was just a very easy way to start. That the left hand is about what it was supposed to be when we were living in the Garden of Eden, where we did not have to labor for our food, where we did not have to be insecure about where we lived. That's what I mean when I say the radical indulgence of the desires of the flesh. It is to be one with the earth, one with each other, to not have to fear for your safety, to be guaranteed sovereignty from the first breath to the last, right? So that's what it means. It means that if you want to see the face of God, if you want to experience the ecstasy of the mother, that sexual union is the gift that she gave us that gives us the easiest opportunity to re-go to heaven while we're in the flesh, right? That sex is a ceremony. And so that's why the left had to be condemned and hidden and kept from us, is because it teaches us to lean into those things that the mother gave us to ensure that we would remember that we are God, that we are not apart from her, that we are her. We are earth. Right? Thank you. Thank you so much. Y'all are awesome. Thank you. Thanks so much.
You ended well. You ended amazing.
Just want to grab.
Oh yeah.
Sorry, I'm having a question for you. What is Earth is like a square, the what is not, everything is energy right now.
So let's talk about it because I actually have taught that a lot on my YouTube channel. So I meant to write this on here, but this here. But as an @ daughter of the faith, that's my YouTube channel. And reach out to me. Also, this is my email. So reach out to me, and then I can put you on because this is a discussion. That's my bad.
I'll see you soon.
All right, thank you so much, y'all. Thanks for coming. All right, family. So I'm going to log off now. Thanks for joining, and I will be doing another live tonight when we will go ahead and start reading the Parable of the Talents. Till then, I will see you guys at 9 p.m. tonight. Peace. So literally.